A Tucker snowcat from the 1957 Trans-Antarctic expedition dangles precariously over a massive crevasse. The team relied on these vehicles to make the first-ever overland crossing of the continent, a journey of 2,158 miles. A soba noodle delivery man in 1950s Tokyo shows incredible balance, navigating a bicycle with one hand. This was a common sight before the widespread use of scooters and delivery cars in the city. Standing beside a Bytrans 6 computer is Sister Mary Kenneth Keller, who became the first American woman to earn a PhD in computer science in 1965. She was a huge advocate for using computers in education and for getting women into the field. A French civilian pours a cup of tea for an exhausted British soldier during the Battle of Normandy in 1944. Small acts of kindness like this were a common sight between Allied troops and the locals they liberated. A 16-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger hits his first bodybuilding pose at a competition in Graz, Austria. Even at this early stage, you can see the determination that would take him all the way to Mr. Olympia and Hollywood. Raquel Welch rose to fame in the mid-60s after her role in 1 Million Years BC. The famous poster for that film, featuring Welch in a fur bikini, became a best-selling pop culture item of the decade. A London bobby directs a chaotic mix of double-decker buses and early automobiles in 1928. The ads on the buses for things like the Girlfriend musical give a perfect snapshot of the era. Fleetwood Mac singer Stevie Nicks performs on stage during her 1989 tour for the album The Other Side of the Mirror. Her unique shawls and mystical stage presence had already made her a rock and roll icon by this time. French starlet Brigitte Bardot walks barefoot with her second husband, Jacques Charrier, in the late 1950s. Their famously turbulent marriage lasted only a few years, but produced some of the era's most iconic photographs. Elvis and Priscilla Presley pose for a formal portrait in 1971, capturing the King's famous Las Vegas style. That custom jumpsuit and oversized cape became his signature look for the remainder of his career. Actress Gloria Duane strikes a pose for a cheesecake photo, a popular style in the 1960s. These kinds of playful, eye-catching pictures were a key part of the publicity machine for Hollywood starlets. Elizabeth Taylor's famous violet eyes are on full display in this close-up from the 1967 film The Taming of the Shrew. She starred opposite her then-husband, Richard Burton, making the film's title a bit of an inside joke for the public. The upward curve of the Titanic's deck, known as sheer, was a deliberate design choice. It wasn't just for looks. The slope helped prevent massive waves from washing over the bow in rough seas. 2 years after Halloween made her a star, Jamie Lee Curtis posed for this clever photo in 1980. The picture playfully acknowledges her Scream Queen status and the Curves Ahead road sign. A young Simon Cowell appears on a British TV show in 1987, decades before he became a household name. He was a record producer at the time, long before adopting his signature black t-shirt and harsh judging style. An audience in Hollywood dons natural vision glasses for the premiere of Buona Devil in 1952. It was the first time moviegoers experienced a full-length color 3D film, kicking off a brief but memorable cinematic craze. A young, relatively unknown Benito Mussolini gets roughed up by authorities while being arrested in 1915. Ironically, his arrest came during a protest against Italy's involvement in World War I. David Bowie showcases a classic pinstriped suit look during a 1993 photo shoot by a pool. This dapper style stood in sharp contrast to the wild glam rock personas he was famous for in the 70s and 80s. Telephone operators in Tokyo test out Toshiba's new video phone system back in 1964. The technology was groundbreaking for its time, but it wouldn't become a practical reality for the average person for another 4 decades. A teenage tourist named Meghan Markle poses for a photo outside Buckingham Palace during a 1996 trip to London. Little did anyone know then that she would one day marry into the family living inside. Long before he was the bumbling Mr. Bean, a young Rowan Atkinson leans against his own Aston Martin V8 Vantage in 1984. A true gearhead, his personal car collection was a world away from the beat-up Mini his famous character drove. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall share a moment on the set of their classic film noir, The Big Sleep, in 1946. By this point, their on-screen chemistry had famously blossomed into a real-life marriage, making them Hollywood's ultimate power couple. German photojournalist Erich Salomon captured this illegal photograph inside the Supreme Court in 1932 by faking a broken arm. He cleverly hid a small camera inside his cast, getting a shot that was strictly forbidden at the time. Sophia Loren famously gives the side-eye to Jane Mansfield during a Hollywood party in 1957. Loren later claimed she was staring because she was genuinely concerned Mansfield's dress was about to have a major wardrobe malfunction. In 1971, NASA employee Patricia Conklin pieced together the first complete map of Mars by hand. She painstakingly assembled a mosaic from hundreds of individual photos sent back by the Mariner 9 probe. A young Metallica, including original bassist Cliff Burton on the far right, poses for a photo around 1985. This was the classic lineup that was touring for Ride the Lightning and solidifying their place at the top of the thrash metal scene. Shoppers crowd the aisles of a Woolworth store in downtown Houston during the Christmas rush of 1964. For decades, these iconic five and dime stores were a fixture in almost every American town. The rope and clay seal on a doorway to King Tut's tomb remained untouched for over 3,200 years. When archaeologist Howard Carter saw it in 1922, he knew he had found a royal burial undisturbed by ancient robbers. During their final brutal push towards Berlin in 1945, Soviet soldiers take a rare break from the fighting. An impromptu acrobatic performance on top of a T-34 tank provides a moment of surreal entertainment amidst the chaos of war. Chairman Mao Zedong examines his famous Little Red Book with Robert F. Williams, a controversial American civil rights leader. Williams advocated for armed black self-defense and lived in exile in China during the 1960s, making this a surreal piece of Cold War history. Margaret Hamilton, lead software engineer for the Apollo project, stands next to the code she and her team wrote in 1969. That towering stack of paper is the navigation software that guided the Apollo spacecraft safely to the moon and back. A young Michael Jackson shakes hands with dancing pioneer Fred Astaire in the late 1970s. Astaire, a longtime admirer of Jackson's talent, famously called him a hell of a mover after this meeting. Anne Margaret electrifies the screen in the early 1960s, seen here in a classic publicity shot. Her high-energy performances in films like Bye Bye Birdie and alongside Elvis in Viva Las Vegas made her a household name. The Beatles, in their signature matching suits, performed during the early days of their rise to fame. This sharp-dressed look, combined with their energetic sound, would soon launch a full-blown British invasion of American culture. Sigourney Weaver shows a different side in this striking 1983 portrait by famed photographer Helmut Newton. The sharp, tailored suit was a world away from the tough, blue-collar persona of her character Ellen Ripley in the Alien films. Bruce Lee showcases his incredible physical definition and focus, likely between takes on a film set. He maintained a body fat percentage of nearly 0, allowing for the extreme muscle clarity that became his visual trademark. The Covina Bowl in Southern California stands as a perfect example of mid-century Googie architecture. Its sharp angles, upswept roof, and huge neon sign were designed to catch the eye of passing motorists in the car-centric culture of the 1950s. Teenage fans are completely overcome with emotion at a Beatles concert in the mid-1960s. This frenzied reaction, dubbed Beatlemania by the press, became a defining feature of the band's live performances around the world. A 22-year-old Hillary Rodham is pictured here around 1969 while she was a student at Wellesley College. These were her formative years, just before she went on to Yale Law School, where she would meet her future husband, Bill Clinton. Then Vice Vice President Richard Nixon and his wife Pat attend Ghana's Independence Day celebrations in March 1957. At the time, Nixon was known as a racial liberal in the Eisenhower administration, with stronger civil rights credentials than his future opponent, JFK. Steve Jobs rides his 1966 BMW R62 motorcycle for a National Geographic photo shoot in 1981. He specifically insisted on this shot, wanting to be portrayed not just as a businessman, but as someone on a journey. Actress Shelley Duvall waits at an airport checkpoint in the 1970s, showcasing the era's eclectic fashion. Her striking, unconventional look made her a favorite of directors like Robert Altman, who cast her in several of his films. Buck Colbert Franklin, a respected lawyer in Oklahoma, stands impeccably dressed outside his office in the 1920s. After the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre destroyed his building, he continued to represent survivors while working out of a tent. Audrey Hepburn reviews the script in costume for her famous role as Eliza Doolittle in the 1964 film My Fair Lady. The elegant outfits designed by Cecil Beaton for the film became almost as famous as her performance. Actress Rita Hayworth poses for a famous 1941 Life magazine photo that quickly became one of the most requested pinups for GIs during World War II. The picture, showing her in a satin and lace nightgown, cemented her status as a Hollywood bombshell. A group of children, refugees from the devastation of World War II, catch their first glimpse of the Statue of Liberty in 1946. For these kids arriving in New York Harbor, that site represented the start of a new life and a world away from the conflict they had escaped. President Kennedy and his family relax on a porch in Hyannisport with a litter of puppies in August 1963. This idyllic summer photo, capturing a rare moment of private family life, was taken just 3 months before the nation was plunged into mourning. Franklin D. Roosevelt projects an image of calm authority from his study, leading the country through the Great Depression and World War II. In an unspoken agreement with the press, photos like this rarely showed the leg braces or wheelchair he relied on after being stricken with polio. Before the widespread use of radar, armies relied on acoustic locators like this to detect the sound of approaching enemy aircraft. An operator would listen intently through the horns, trying to pinpoint the direction and altitude of a plane by sound alone. A family poses for a group photo in the 1940s, capturing a classic slice of rural American life. The telltale wire stretching from the camera suggests the man on the right is using a cable release, a clever way to get everyone in the shot.